Hey guys, it's your classmate Grace. Today we're going to be discussing I Give You Back by Joy Harjo. This is one of my favorite poems ever, so I really hope you enjoy. So, I Give You Back is written by Joy Harjo, who is just an amazing artist and writer. She's a member of the Muskogee Nation. She's also the 23rd Poet Laureate of the United States and only the second Poet Laureate ever to serve 3 terms. She's also a musician. She plays saxophone and flutes. And I Give You Back was one of the first poems that she wrote, which is really amazing when we get into how powerful this poem is. So, what is the significance of the poem I Give You Back? Well, artistically, there is a lot of significance to it, especially if you're somebody who loves poetry like I do. But in the context of our class, I Give You Back is a great example of representation. Harjo really has a skill for putting words to her experiences as an Indigenous person. For me as well, I think that this poem is kind of an anthem of strength and unity. You'll kind of see what I mean by that as we go forward and we read the poem. I also think part of the significance of this poem is the catharsis of putting words to such anger, but also such ambition to overcome fear and ultimately find joy. Um, I also included this quote from Harjo where she says that she needed to write poetry and she had to find her voice in order to live. And I felt like that quote really summed up what I get out of this poem. So I did want to include Harsha reading I Give You Back in her interview with NPR. I don't believe I'll be able to in the format that I'm uploading this, but I would encourage you to check that out. Hearing her um, read the poem takes on a totally new life than just reading it on your own. And she has a very sing-song like cadence, and it just flows really well in her voice. And you can really tell that her poetry is inspired by music. So let's go ahead and give this a read. I Give You Back by Joy Harjo. I release you, my beautiful and terrible fear. I release you. You were my beloved and hated twin, but now I don't know you as myself. I release you with all the pain I would know at the death of my daughters. You are not my blood anymore. I give you back to the white soldiers who burned down my home, beheaded my children, raped and sodomized my brothers and sisters. I give you back to those who stole the food from our plates when we were starving. I release you, fear, because you hold these scenes in front of me, and I was born with eyes that can never close. I release you, fear, so you can no longer keep me naked and frozen in the winter, or smothered under blankets in the summer. I release you, I release you, I release you, I release you. I am not afraid to be angry. I am not afraid to rejoice. I'm not afraid to be black. I am not afraid to be white. I am not afraid to be hungry. I am not afraid to be full. I am not afraid to be hated. I am not afraid to be loved. To be loved, fear. Oh, you have choked me, but I gave you the leash. You have gutted me, but I gave you the knife. You have devoured me, but I laid myself across the fire. I take myself back, fear. You are not my shadow any longer. I won't hold you in my hands. You can't live in my eyes, my ears, my voice, my belly, or in my heart, my heart, my heart, my heart. But come here, fear. I am alive, and you are so afraid of dying. So I picked a couple standout phrases, and I wanted to note some word choice in this poem. So the repetitive phrases like I release you, I give you back, and I am not afraid, for me, these are like mantra-like repetitions. It's almost like speaking it into existence. It's almost like telling yourself, if I repeat this and repeat this and repeat this, it might be true. It's almost like, you're super nervous about something and you tell yourself it's going to be fine, it's going to be fine, it's going to be fine. So in that way, I think that this is like a really nice cathartic emotional release for the author. I also wanted to note you were my beloved and hated twin, but now I don't know you as myself. Here it seems like Harjo is really disconnecting her fear from being an aspect of her identity. as a Native American woman, as we know, there are so many statistics about the dangers of that. Um, we've talked about that a little bit in class. And there's fear, of course, that comes along with that. And it's as if Harjo is just saying, I reject that. I'm not afraid. Um, and also, I haven't really touched on this yet, but reading a little bit about Harjo's background, she dealt with abuse. She dealt with alcoholism in her family background. And knowing that and reading this poem, it really takes on a new life and a new meaning and a new strength. I also wanted to note, she says, "Oh, you have choked me, but I gave you the leash. You have gutted me, but I gave you the knife. The knife." Um, this is such an active resistance against fear, and such like, I don't want to say violent language, but kind of like visceral word choice, choked and gutted. And then I also just noted the last two lines. "But come here, fear. I am alive and you are so afraid of dying." And I just wrote that one down because I love it and it's just so powerful to me. And I would 10 out of 10 tattoo it on my body. So I think the main course theme to talk about here is resistance. "I Give You Back" is an overt resistance poem. She says, "I give you back to the white soldiers who burned down my home, beheaded my children, raped and sodomized my brothers and sisters." She says, "I take myself back, fear. You are not my shadow any longer. I won't hold you in my hands." She is literally just saying, no, I'm not partaking in this fear. I'm resisting against this fear. Um, and also, I mean, so many of our course themes could apply to this poem, but really I think the big ones are resistance, survivance, and cultural identity. Harjo's writing, in and of itself, and her art, is an act of survivance and preserving and creating culture. Um, Harjo is also a voice of cultural identity. She puts words on paper that describe Indigenous experiences. And also just the inspiration that she's brought to Indigenous people, and especially for Indigenous women, gives encouragement to thousands and thousands of people and will have long lasting effects. I think that one thing that's so powerful about writing and about Harjo's writing in particular is that it's kind of this unambiguous art form. In visual arts, you're kind of creating a symbol for something greater, or in a film, you're kind of creating a symbol for something greater. But when you're writing, you have to be so articulate about what you're feeling and experiencing, and because of that, I feel like writing is an art form with no boundaries. And I think that's what's so powerful about that, about this poem to me. And I think also being able to articulately describe Indigenous experiences connects Indigenous communities together, through relatability and community, but also helps non-Indigenous people understand the Native experience, and have more empathy and have more, um, just understanding for the experiences of others. So that is what is so powerful about this poem. Um, yeah, so that's "I Give You Back" by Joy Harjo. I would really encourage you to go back and watch the video where she reads it herself. Um, Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope that you will read more poems going forth.